The day the divorce papers were signed, everyone in the courtroom expected a fight over the house, the savings, and the furniture we had spent 12 years collecting. They expected lawyers to argue over every dollar. They expected tears, accusations, and bitter speeches. Instead, I asked for nothing. Nothing except one little girl who wasn't even biologically mine. My ex-husband looked at me for a long, silent moment before sliding an envelope across the table. Inside was a cashier's check for exactly $8,000. His voice barely rose above a whisper. "Take her, and never bring her back." At that moment, I thought I was winning. I had no idea I had just accepted the most dangerous secret of my life. People often say a marriage dies slowly. Mine ended all at once, though the warning signs had been there for years. It was March 18, 2024, in Nashville, Tennessee, when the judge officially dissolved my marriage to Daniel Carter. We had been married since June 14, 2012, after meeting at a neighborhood charity fundraiser 5 years earlier. For most of those 12 years, people believed we were the perfect couple. Daniel owned a successful residential construction company, while I worked as a pediatric occupational therapist at a children's rehabilitation clinic on the city's west side. From the outside, our lives looked polished. Inside our home, silence had become more common than conversation. Friends assumed we had simply grown apart. They didn't know that trust had quietly disappeared long before love did. The divorce itself was strangely uncomplicated. Daniel kept the house. He kept the company. He kept every investment account. He kept both vehicles. I asked for none of it. Even my attorney stared at me in disbelief. "You've earned half of everything," she whispered before the hearing. "I don't want half," I answered. "What do you want?" I looked across the courtroom, toward the little girl coloring quietly beside the family counselor. "I only want Lily." The request froze everyone in the room. Because Lily wasn't my biological daughter. She wasn't Daniel's biological daughter either. At least, that's what everyone believed. Lily had entered our lives on September 2, 2018, when Daniel's distant cousin died unexpectedly in a highway accident outside Knoxville, Tennessee. With no immediate family able to care for the 4-year-old child, temporary guardianship eventually became permanent custody. The adoption paperwork had taken nearly 18 months. I remembered every appointment, every background check, every interview, every sleepless night wondering whether we would become parents. When the final adoption order was signed in February 2020, I cried harder than I had on my wedding day. Daniel barely smiled. At the time, I thought he was overwhelmed. Now, looking back, I wondered if he had been hiding something else. The judge adjusted her glasses and studied Daniel carefully. "Mr. Carter, your former wife is requesting sole custody of Lily. Do you object?" The courtroom became painfully quiet. Every second stretched longer than the last. Daniel didn't even glance toward the child. "No." My attorney frowned. The judge frowned. Even Daniel's own lawyer looked confused. "You understand," the judge continued, "that this means surrendering all parental rights." "I understand." His answer came too quickly. Too easily. It didn't make sense. Daniel had argued over who would keep an old fishing boat worth less than $3,000. Yet he was willing to give away his daughter without a single question. My stomach tightened. Then came something even stranger. During a short recess, Daniel approached me in the hallway. He carried a plain white envelope. "I need one favor," he said. "I don't owe you any favors anymore." "I know." He handed me the envelope anyway. Inside was the cashier's check. $8,000. Exactly. No note. No explanation. Just a check. "I don't want your money," I said. "You'll need it." "For what?" His eyes shifted toward the courtroom doors. "Promise me you'll leave Nashville." "What?" "Take Lily. Move." Start over somewhere else. I stared at him. What are you talking about? His jaw tightened. Please. That single word sounded less like a request than a warning. Before I could ask another question, his attorney called him back inside. He never looked back. The divorce ended less than an hour later. By sunset, I was legally single. By sunrise the next morning, Lily and I were packing boxes. She sat cross-legged on the bedroom floor, hugging the faded stuffed rabbit she'd carried since infancy. Are we going far away? She asked. I think so. Will Daddy come visit? The question caught me off guard. I don't know. She nodded quietly, accepting the uncertainty with a maturity no 6-year-old should have needed. Children notice far more than adults realize. Over the following week, I couldn't stop thinking about the check. Why $8,000? Why not 10? Why not 20? Why any amount at all? If Daniel wanted to avoid child support, the court order already settled those obligations. The payment made no legal sense. It felt personal, like hush money, or a desperate bargain. I deposited the check into a new account, but refused to spend a single dollar. Something about it felt wrong, almost contaminated. 2 weeks later, we rented a small white farmhouse outside Bowling Green, Kentucky, about an hour north of Nashville. It wasn't luxurious. The roof leaked during heavy rain. The porch sagged slightly on one side. But Lily loved chasing butterflies through the tall grass behind the property. For the first time in years, she laughed freely. I wanted to believe our worst days were over. I was wrong. Exactly 23 days after we moved, a certified letter arrived. There was no return address. Inside was only one photograph. The picture showed Daniel standing beside a woman I had never seen before. She was holding a newborn baby. Across the back, written in black ink, were 6 chilling words. She was never supposed to survive. My hands began shaking. Who wrote it? Who was the woman? Who was the baby? And why had someone sent the photograph to me instead of the police? That night, I locked every door. I checked every window twice. Long after Lily had fallen asleep, I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the photograph under the glow of a single lamp. Then my phone rang. The number was blocked. I answered anyway. A woman's frightened voice whispered only one sentence before the line went dead. Don't let him find the girl. Everything I believed about my marriage, my divorce, and Lily's past shattered in that instant. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the farmhouse, someone already knew where we were. I didn't sleep that night. The anonymous phone call echoed through my mind until dawn. Don't let him find the girl. Not your daughter. Not Lily. Just the girl. The choice of words unsettled me more than the warning itself. At 6 o'clock the next morning, I looked out the kitchen window toward the gravel driveway. A thin layer of fog covered the fields surrounding our rented farmhouse outside Bowling Green, Kentucky. Everything appeared peaceful. Then I noticed tire tracks. Fresh tire tracks. Someone had driven onto the property during the night. I stepped outside, my heart pounding. The tracks stopped just 20 feet from the front porch, before turning around and disappearing back toward the county road. Whoever had come hadn't knocked. They had only watched. I hurried back inside and locked the door. Lily wandered into the kitchen wearing oversized pajamas and rubbing sleep from her eyes. Mom, are you okay? I forced a smile. I'm fine. Children always know when adults are lying. She looked toward the window. Was somebody here? My stomach tightened. What makes you ask that? I heard a car. She had heard it, while I had slept through the sound. That realization terrified me. Later that morning, I drove into town and reported the anonymous call to the local sheriff's office. Deputy Mark Reynolds, a veteran officer with nearly 20 years of experience, listened carefully, but admitted there wasn't much they could investigate. No name, no caller ID, no threats beyond a warning, he explained. But someone came to my house. He nodded. We'll increase patrols. It wasn't enough. By the time I returned home, an unfamiliar black SUV was parked across the road. The driver remained inside, watching. The moment my car slowed, the SUV pulled away. Too quickly, as if it had been waiting. That evening, I searched through every document related to Lily's adoption. Birth certificates, court records, medical evaluations, guardianship orders. Everything appeared legitimate, until I noticed something I had somehow missed years earlier. One page had been replaced. The document numbers skipped. Page 12 was immediately followed by page 14. Page 13 was missing. It wasn't an accident. Someone had deliberately removed it. I called the attorney who had handled the adoption. Her assistant answered. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "Ms. Evelyn Brooks retired last year. Can I contact her?" There was a long pause. "I'm afraid you can't." "Why?" "She passed away 3 months ago." Another door had closed. The next clue arrived unexpectedly. 3 days later, while unpacking another box in the farmhouse attic, I found one of Daniel's old storage containers. I almost threw it away. Instead, curiosity convinced me to open it. Inside were faded photographs, tax documents, handwritten notebooks, and an old digital camera. Most of the photographs meant nothing. Vacations, construction sites, birthday parties. Then I found one that froze me in place. The picture was dated August 12, 2018. 3 weeks before Lily officially entered our lives. Daniel stood outside St. Mary's Children's Medical Center in Nashville. Beside him stood the same unknown woman from the anonymous photograph. She wasn't holding a newborn anymore. She was holding Lily. My pulse raced. According to every legal record, Daniel shouldn't have met Lily until September. Yet here they were together weeks earlier. He had lied. Not only to me. To the court. To everyone. I examined the back of the photograph. One sentence had been written in blue ink. "Keep your promise." Promise? What promise? To whom? Before I could think further, someone knocked on the front door. 3 slow knocks. I looked through the peephole. No one. Only a small brown envelope lying on the porch. I waited several minutes before opening the door. The driveway was empty. Inside the envelope was a flash drive. No note. No fingerprints that I could see. I plugged it into my old laptop. One video file appeared. The timestamp read, September 1, 2018. The recording showed the parking lot outside St. Mary's Children's Medical Center. The quality was poor, but Daniel was clearly visible. So was the unknown woman. They argued intensely. There was no audio. Only frantic gestures. Then Daniel handed her a thick envelope. Money. A lot of money. The woman hesitated before passing Lily into his arms. Seconds later, she climbed into an older silver sedan and drove away. She never looked back. The video ended. I watched it 4 more times. Each viewing raised new questions. Had Daniel bought custody? Had Lily been sold? Had the adoption been staged? Nothing made sense anymore. That evening, I searched public records online. After hours of digging, I finally identified the woman. Her name was Rachel Morgan. 32 years old. Former nurse. Last known address in Clarksville, Tennessee. Employment records stopped in late 2018. No recent photographs. No social media. No voter registration. She had seemingly vanished. The next morning, I drove to Clarksville. Her apartment building still stood. The property manager recognized her photograph immediately. I remember Rachel. Do you know where she went? He hesitated. She didn't move. What do you mean? She disappeared. When? About a month after leaving here. Did anyone report her missing? Her sister did. My heartbeat quickened. Were they ever able to find her? The manager slowly shook his head. No. As I turned to leave, he called after me. Wait. He disappeared into a storage room before returning with a small cardboard box. Police overlooked this. Inside lay ordinary belongings. Old receipts. A broken watch. A notebook. At the bottom rested a sealed envelope. Across the front was written one name. Emma. My name. The envelope had never been mailed. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. If you're reading this, then Daniel lied to both of us. I stopped breathing. The next line hit even harder. Lily isn't who you think she is. Every instinct told me to keep reading. Before I could finish the first page, a loud crash came from outside. Glass shattered. I rushed toward the living room. Someone had thrown a brick through the farmhouse window. Wrapped around it was another handwritten note. Only 4 words. Stop asking questions. I looked across the yard. A dark pickup truck sped away, disappearing into the afternoon traffic before I could read the license plate. When I turned back toward the house, Lily stood frozen in the hallway, tears filling her eyes. Mom. She pointed toward the broken window. That man. What man? The one who came before. Every muscle in my body went cold. What do you mean? She swallowed hard. I've seen him before. Where? Her answer changed everything. At Daddy's office. And for the first time since the divorce, I realized the danger wasn't following us. It had been waiting for us all along. The words left Lily's mouth so quietly that they barely sounded real. I've seen him before, at Daddy's office. A chill ran through me. Children rarely invent details like that, especially when fear is written across their faces. I knelt beside her. Can you tell me about him? She nodded slowly. He came a lot. Daddy always told me to stay in the playroom whenever he visited. One day I came out anyway. They were yelling. Daddy said, nobody can ever know the truth. The room fell silent. The brick on the floor, the shattered glass, and the anonymous threats suddenly fit together like pieces of a puzzle I had never wanted to solve. That night, I finally finished reading Rachel Morgan's letter. She wrote that years earlier she had become trapped in debt after paying for her mother's cancer treatment. Daniel had offered to help, but the money came with conditions. He wanted her to disappear from Lily's life forever. Rachel claimed she had signed papers she barely understood because she believed Lily would have a safer future than she could provide. The final paragraph was heartbreaking. If Daniel ever tries to give Lily away without a fight, don't believe his kindness. He's protecting himself, not her. I stared at the page for a long time. For months, I had believed Daniel paid me $8,000 because he didn't want the responsibility of raising Lily. Now I realized something very different. He wanted Lily as far away from him as possible. The next morning, I drove back to Nashville. Deputy Mark Reynolds arranged a meeting with detectives after I handed them the anonymous letters, the flash drive, Rachel's note, and the photograph from the hospital. For hours, they compared names, dates, and financial records. Late that afternoon, one detective looked up from his computer. We found something. Daniel's construction company had transferred exactly $8,000 to an account connected to Rachel just days before the adoption process began. Months later, another payment had been made to a private investigator. The detective frowned. Whatever happened back then, someone worked very hard to erase it. The investigation moved quickly. Search warrants uncovered hidden files in Daniel's office. Among ordinary business records were copies of private agreements, cash withdrawals, and correspondence showing years of deception surrounding Lily's adoption. When detectives confronted Daniel, he asked for a lawyer. For 2 days, he said nothing. Then everything changed. His attorney contacted the investigators with an offer. Daniel wanted to make a statement. I was present when he finally spoke. He looked older than he had only weeks before. Exhaustion had replaced confidence. I never hurt Lily, he began. I believe that, the detective replied, but you've been hiding something. Daniel lowered his head. The people I borrowed money from years ago weren't ordinary lenders. They wanted leverage. They threatened everyone connected to me. When Lily came into my life, I realized she could become another target. Why the divorce payment? I knew they were watching me. If Lily stayed with me, she'd never be safe. So you paid Emma to leave? Yes. Why not tell her the truth? They warned me that if I spoke, they'd come after both of them. The room was silent. His explanation answered some questions, but not all of them. He had made terrible decisions. He had lied repeatedly. He had manipulated everyone around him. Yet beneath those lies was one desperate attempt to keep a little girl alive. The months that followed were difficult. Investigators continued their work. Several people connected to the old financial scheme were arrested on fraud and conspiracy charges. Rachel Morgan's disappearance was finally solved. She had been living under a new identity through a witness protection arrangement after agreeing to cooperate with investigators years earlier. For her safety, even local authorities had been given only limited information. When she was finally reunited with Lily, neither knew exactly what to say. Rachel didn't ask to replace me. She simply thanked me. With tears in her eyes, she whispered, "You became the mother I prayed she would have." Lily reached for both of our hands. She didn't care about legal definitions. She cared about the people who loved her. Months later, another family court hearing was held. This time, there were no arguments. No shouting. No hidden agendas. The judge approved an arrangement that protected Lily's stability while allowing Rachel to rebuild a relationship with her slowly, under professional guidance, and with Lily's comfort always coming first. As for Daniel, he accepted responsibility for the lies that had brought everyone to that courtroom. He looked at me only once before leaving. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. I believed he regretted his choices. But regret could never erase the years of deception. Life slowly found a new rhythm. The farmhouse no longer felt like a hiding place. It became a home. Lily returned to school. She laughed more often. The nightmares became less frequent. One rainy afternoon, nearly a year after the divorce, she found the cashier's check receipt while helping me organize old files. "Is this the money Daddy gave you?" "Yes." "Why?" I looked out the window before answering. "Because sometimes people think money can fix what fear has broken." "Can it?" I smiled sadly. "No." She slipped her small hand into mine. "What fixes it?" "Truth," I said, "and the people who refuse to leave you when the truth finally comes out." She nodded as though she understood. Maybe she did. Maybe children understand love better than adults ever will. I never spent Daniel's $8,000. Instead, it remained in a savings account in Lily's name, a reminder not of the price someone tried to place on her life, but of the day I chose a child over everything else. The divorce had taken away my marriage. It had taken away my certainty. It had taken away the future I thought I was building. But it had given me something I never expected. A daughter who taught me that family is not created by blood, paperwork, or money. It is created by the people who stay when staying is hardest. And in the end, that was worth more than every dollar either of us had ever owned.